Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Push podcast. My name is Jack Ferguson, an experienced marketing and sales consultant with a science background, and I'm your host. This season of the podcast is essential listening for small and medium-sized companies looking for their next stage of growth. Myself and other experts will explore common problems in marketing, product, and sales. We will deconstruct them and then detail straightforward, evidence-based remedies for you. I aim to give you both inspiration and practical solutions to push through similar challenges in your own company. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Hello and welcome to episode 10, season 3. We're going to talk about lead generation today. Every startup has this issue. Many companies have this issue. And when we're looking at issues in this season, we look at them through the lens of a specific company. In this case today, we're looking through the lens of AI consulting startup Writrrr, spearheaded by CEO Jordan. He's taken the initiative to investigate what is preventing his startup's growth. He's drawn the conclusion that his business is lacking leads. So how should he approach this? Should he hire a lead gen agency to fix this problem? We'll answer this question on this episode and many more. And by we, I mean myself and Alex Urquhart, product marketing specialist. So who should listen? CEOs or GMs of mid-sized companies, small business owners, sales professionals who work in small or medium businesses, and marketing professionals who work in small or medium-sized businesses. And of course, just if you're curious about this topic, listen on in. Some of the specifics we'll cover include: in what circumstances should you hire a lead gen agency? How does lead generation work and how to think about it? How to appropriately use budget to scale lead generation? How to avoid get-rich-quick lead generation schemes that are probably being sold to you. How to think about short, medium, and long-term lead generation. What do these mean? How should you think about it? And what Alex means when he says that all roads lead to leads. If you want to find Alex or I on the internet, our websites, our socials, that type of thing, go to the description of this episode on whatever platform you're listening on. All the links will be there for you. But for now, let's bring in Alex. Hello, Alex. Good to see you again today.
Good to be back, mate.
Thanks for being here. What are we looking at?
Looking at today, we've got Jordan has come to the team and said, I've got it. We need more leads.
That's a super insightful comment. Again, we've never heard that before. Yeah. Has anyone ever said that to you?
No, not in the last hour, but I have got it like multiple times this week. But it's a standard thing. I think I feel bad for the founders that we talk about because it feels like we rag on them a lot.
But it is fun.
It's an easy target. Sadly, I think it's because, at least for Jordan in the early stages, most of the success and failure and core crux of it lies with the founder as well. So, and I have worked with people in the past that come back and they've said, I've done a diagnostic and I've the growth. What's blocking our growth is leads, which it's like saying what's blocking my fitness is weight loss. Mm-hmm. It's like it's still an outcome. Clearly that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
But it's like you're talking about things, and that's probably my gist of a lot of this episode is, I think, focus on what you can control, not what you can't. Growth, sales, and leads you cannot control. Those are outcomes.
You control the inputs.
Yes, correct. Yes. Correct. So Jordan's come back as a scenario. He's come in. He said, we need more leads. What's the thoughts on that? My first thought is, yes, it's an outcome. Mm-hmm. My second thought is it is an extremely seductive thing that every founder at some point, because frankly, and I've got a theory that at least in the early days, all roads lead to leads. Mm-hmm. And that what I mean by that is in the beginning, so you go, you've got, say, the product side of things, you've got the marketing side of things / operations, then you've got the sales side of things. And of course, sales relies on filling the funnel. Now, you don't have anything in the funnel to optimize and convert and progress if you don't have leads. So in the beginning, you've got to try and fill the funnel there. For the product, you go, well, goal number one is product market fit. And you go, well, we need to talk to the users. I don't have any users. So what are you going to do? Oh, I've got to find leads. Okay, cool. How do we optimize the business and the pricing? Oh, talk to the customer.
Don't have any.
It just keeps going back to it.
Yes.
So in the early stage, by far, almost every single conversation, but the majority of them start with, we need more leads because we need more sales because we need more growth. Very fair question. Short answer is, yes, it's possible. Long answer is, it's the same as saying product market fit. It's a very vague subjective term. And frankly, any version of decent leads, like, yeah, you can make a cold call and you can send a cold email, and there is best practices. You can go into that. But the reality is, good lead gen usually comes to branding from on your side, and usually the scaling version of what everyone wants, this huge hockey stick growth, is usually branding or something external that takes everyone in the team. It's a product thing, it's a branding thing, it's a sales thing, it's a marketing thing, it's everything combined into one. So, and I think we used a couple episodes back this analogy of it's like a football coach. So it's saying, and I'll use NRL again because I'm from Queensland, but it's like, I want to buy a really good winger because wingers score tries.
Yes.
Tries win games. Games wins premierships. Yep. So simple, right? We just buy a good winger and call it a day. You'd probably call him a lazy coach, right? It's like it's not up to that. Everything else is a big system. So I think all roads lead back to leads. I think first, you need to understand how lead gen works, and I think it's in its simplest form is people. The four main stages are attention, awareness, interest, and then engage. Marketers call engage consideration sometimes, but basically it's like people need to know you have to have their attention. You can call them, put up a billboard in the city. You need to first get their eyes on you. They need to have your awareness, so being sure of what you do. I don't know if you've ever driven past a billboard or you've seen an ad or something in the newspaper and it got your attention, but you got no idea what they do. You could be like a law agency or a new spa retreat, could be anything. It's very vague. So awareness, interest, that comes back to your unique value prop. What do you offer that no one else does? Why should they be interested? What can you do for them no one else can? And then the engage is giving them an opportunity to engage. Making a cold call, which is usually where people's brains go when it comes to lead gen, is, you call a lead, you pitch them. If I have a slick sales guy, he'll pitch them really well. They'll be keen, they'll jump on board. Maybe if you've got your fundamentals sorted, but usually that sort of looks like, you've got to understand your market gap. So if you're just a CRM, that's not good enough. If you're a CRM for early stage startups that optimizes, low touch pipeline engagement or something, if you've got a unique value prop, well, what problem in the market does that solve? How are you helping that specific person that way? Therefore, your unique value is how you help them. And then in that case, you take that messaging or you take that value that you can convey and you go out to the market and you get their attention and you get their awareness. And so that usually goes from, having those fundamental pieces, knowing what you have, because 9 times out of 10, it's not the number of blogs you write. It's not cold calls, it's not emails, it's not webinars, it's not events, or referrals or partners or sort of word of mouth. It's always the fundamental pieces. It's what you have to say. So my advice always is, before you hire an agency, if you can't convert, say for example, on the lower scale, maybe 2 out of 10 to start with 1 out of 10, you can't find 1 out of 10 leads, or if you can't then convert them, if you can't do it yourself, any form of outsourcing, this is a bit controversial to some people, any form of outsourcing marketing process or sales or lead gen is a matter of scaling what works.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yes. So people don't like hearing that because it's not the easy out, right? It's like can't hire an agency to just fix my growth. And
Jordan's thinking about hiring an agency, right?
Yes.
He's thinking about hiring a lead gen agency, and you can see as you said, the seductiveness of that. I need more leads. Who's going to get me leads? A lead gen agency.
Yep.
The other interesting thing I'm thinking about there is sometimes people don't realize that it's what you feed the agency then that they can use.
Yes.
That will determine the success of it as well.
100%.
Without that brief, without that knowledge, it's not going to work.
Yes.
Like you're not going to go anywhere because
Yes.
they don't know your business.
Yes, and they don't know your buyers. Like
Yes.
they know that sort of outer layers. You're exactly right. Like they know their channels. They probably know good copywriting. They may know, best etiquette on cold calls, cold emails. But if you can't, you can send 10,000 cold emails. But if you can't frame the value to the right person in the right way with the right words, and you know what triggers them to go, this is of interest to me or this is important to me, it's a total waste of time. And I used to work with a marketing, I shouldn't say agency. He was a freelancer, but he was so good. And he would say, before he works with anyone, he asks them, have you been able to find and convert a customer on your own? And it was the biggest telling tale if he would use them or not, because he said their expectations were astronomical.
Yeah.
And he said they'd come on board and expect me to solve the company's problems.
Yes.
And I think,
it's a good way of framing it, the company's problems. because you're kind of asking to solve the company's problems.
Yes, correct. And it's sort of like, I mean, ironically, shout out to probably us, because that's when a consultant probably comes into play. Yeah. Like that's probably when you need to don't hire the agency to find the leads, take a step back, figure out your unique value, prove it, show me people who hear it, understand it, take action on it, attention, awareness, interest, engage. And then when you find what works, you get your strike rate down. Then fair enough. Pour some money into it.
Yeah, let's like pour gasoline on the fire then.
Yeah. If there's no fire, it's just a wet floor.
Yes.
So, I agree.
But get us in, and if you're going to get me in, I'll almost definitely tell you not to hire an agency. I've never seen it. I've never seen a situation where I thought it made sense.
Yes,
because it's trying to skip steps.
Correct. I mean, I've seen, and that's right. I think for Jordan's case, right, like he's so early on, and if it's like, and for anyone in agency listening, I will give you a shout out. I have seen it work well in certain areas, like running campaigns. Like if you're a product, like for other episodes with Sarah, if they're partway through it and they're releasing a new service or a new product, and you're like, I need someone with firepower who knows how to hit up PR, newspapers. I want to go after any publication. I want to use social thing. Like bring them in there, but that same thing still stands. You know the message. You know what needs to be conveyed. You know the people that need to hear it. You just need the mercenaries to come in and execute on it.
Yes.
So agencies know, and I think be very careful. I get approached by about 10 lead agencies a day, through like LinkedIn. It's like, hey, do you need more leads? Funny that. Everyone does. Because it's kind of funny, right? So for Jordan, for leads is, and I won't go too deep into it, but you've sort of got the marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads. My interpretation, and people will argue with me on this because it varies very subjectively, industry and product and company, but marketing qualified leads, for example, might be someone who's like reached out, say they're in an industry of your ideal buyer, they're the CIO, that's a marketing qualified lead, right person, right company, that feels good. There's the sales qualified lead is, are they reaching out because they've asked you to stop emailing them? Like, are they reaching out because, they have a question about, what are we doing in 2 years, or do we operate? There could be something there, but as in a sales qualified lead is, again, depending on the company, but someone with intent to look at your product, someone who comes in and goes, hey, right person, right place, and goes, I had a friend of mine look at your thing, or I saw your ad come up. I think I've got this problem. Can you help me? That's a sales qualified lead, and that's the sort of golden nugget everyone's trying to get to. More of those is great, but to that same point again, you've got. I'd say to Jordan in this case, my advice would be let's sit down, work on understand your market gap before anything else. And the fastest way to do that, especially with early stage founders, is asking them and saying, why did you create this business? And that gives me more insight than any other question. Speaking of last episode, good questions. I'll be like, what's the value? And they give me a very broad answer. But then I go, or I say, how do you pitch your product? Again, sometimes it's very broad and not uninvigorating. If I say like, why'd you start the company? And they'll say something like, I worked at this place for like 20 years and they just could not do this thing right. And I spent like a year researching online. I made my own prototype. Everyone loved it. So I thought there's something here, right? And I had friends of mine in the industry that really wanted to use it. And it's like, that's the gap. That's it. Yeah. Like that should be your pitch. I spent years fixing this problem statement. I found this solution. Maybe you have to work with them to articulate that solution a little bit more. And then that's the narrative that, if you take cold outbound email, which can be a dirty word sometimes, but I would use that and say like, hey, reaching out to XYZ, say that exact thing. I used to be this person in these shoes. I'm curious to see what you think. Again, cold email is getting more and more hard and subjective, but short term, early days when you've got these startups that need to find results in 3 months, like sadly you do need to hit the road and make some moves and get things moving. So going back to that first point then, right, like all roads lead back to leads. It's something that everyone wants. And even when you're a medium large company as well, you go talk to these people and you say, what's the goal for next quarter? And I had a company the other day go, growth. It's like, okay, good. Awesome.
Couldn't see that coming.
Yeah, right. It's like, well, I think you and every other company on the planet, I've never met one that said growth isn't a priority. So I think understanding that, so that leads back to sales, which leads back to leads, meeting more quality people. Different industries call it the same. They call it different things. In real estate agents call it listings. Same thing, just opportunities to create sales. Customers, referrals, opportunities. It's all the sort of same things. So I will say that to that as well. So there's the lead gen version of it that everyone comes to mind, and I think the traditional old school way is cold calling, cold emailing, which is possible and probably worthwhile for some people just to get that traction. So for Jordan, he probably has investors on his backside that's you need results in 3 months. Short term.
But with cold email and cold sales or cold calling, you still need a message.
Correct.
Yes.
So you've got to have something there. There's also a statistic around that I always use and always bring back to it, and it was Forrester, this agency that did the research, but there's a bunch of places that have done it. Essentially what it says is when you take B2B agencies like these guys, the best case is there's 3% of your market, not of people of your market who are at a point where they're in the buying cycle. They're searching for something. So, and then that alone is tiny. Of that 3%, 80% of it, which is a lot of percentages, 80% of that 3% segment say that they chose their final product that they bought based on previous experiences.
Yes.
So they've had brand influence, like what you talk about. It's like they've interacted with them, they've attended a webinar, they've had a friend talk about it, they've used it at a previous company. They've got this familiarity, and that comes down to that trust. So if you break that down, of your market, that's 0.54% that are of your select few as a startup, that if you just go that hardcore short route, you have a which is, I'm going to get my statistics right, 1 in 184 chance. So in saying that, statistically speaking, you have to send 184 emails to get that person to be like right place, right time, wanting to talk. So very bad, and it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You should hopefully find those people for those short wins, not for the long-term strategy. Get some runs on the board, but then look at the medium and long-term is what I call it. So, and that's things around, it comes in different phrases, top of funnel, middle of funnel. But if we look at long-term, and I think you look at educating the market of the problem. So for Writrrr, we're looking at proposal writing. So if I'm trying to educate the market, there's no way they're going to see my solution as an option if they don't first go, hey, I've got a problem here.
Yes.
And for startups, by definition, you're doing something new. So most of your market, you might throw the solution in their face and do like lead gen, talk about this, or come for a demo. Most times they don't care.
Yeah.
And most times they don't get it. Like they don't understand the solution until they get the problem.
Yes.
So like long-term brand awareness, educating, attention, getting that problem across to sort of everyone. Medium term is that higher level of engagement, talking about the solution. So 5 ways to increase your proposal writing as professional services. So that's that middle stage version of lead generation. So you could do webinars, signups. They're not committed. They're sort of middle stage. You could do lead magnets to download content guides. That's that middle area. And then hopefully if you can look at your market, and you're now addressing the 97% and you're hopefully getting in front of them early enough and influencing them enough that when you get down to that short term, it should go from 0.5 to maybe not all 3%, because you're probably not going to run a monopoly too quickly, but you are going to have a higher chance of far more people wanting to buy from you. So cautious that this could be a 3-hour session. I'll make sure I'm being concise, but I think the idea of hiring a lead gen agency, be careful. Is it lead gen short term? Are they just going to pepper the market? As a story and as an example, I worked with a company that opened a US office. They wanted to approach resource and large complex corporations. They hired a lead gen agency, again, because they wanted leads. It took them, basically they got on this machine gun of absolute peppering the market. This is the US, so it's 15 times the size of Australia. And in 3 months they came back and they said, right, we got a handful of leads, right?
Yeah.
Handful of leads booked, maybe 1 a week booked. 3 months in, this is going good, and the general manager of the US office said, great, can we ramp it up? And the lead gen agency said, we're all out. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, we have emailed everyone on your list in your market.
Yes.
Something like over 1 million in 3 months.
Yeah.
And not only did they have nowhere else to go, but then the leads weren't good. The brand damage, it's not going to be horrific forever. But there were people then that got spammed by people that they just, now when they saw the logo, bad branding, they were just like, I'm going to block these people. Their domain, filters were going nuts. Like, it's just like, short-term wins, I get it, this seductiveness of this lead gen agency stuff. have a crack at it. I would advise doing it yourself.
Yeah.
If you are going to do those short term, but think longer term. If you create a business, I'm hoping you're thinking in the next couple of years of how to grow it.
Mm-hmm.
Do short term, medium term, long term. Think about what that's going to look like. Bring people in, agencies or not, when you've figured it out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to get away with not doing anything.
Yeah.
That's probably my one. I'll stop berating him for a little bit. But
what's actually coming to mind now as well is accepting where you're at.
Yes.
You know, in your business growth.
Yep.
And that's another thing that Jordan might just need to accept that they're not at that stage yet where it makes sense to hire a lead gen agency.
Correct.
You can try and go from step 3 to step 8, but rarely works.
Yes.
I remember I'm going to give you a side note here.
I like this.
But someone told me about the problem with Australian Idol and X Factor and all these talent shows where they put out these people who get blasted out and they try and make a career out of it, right? And it's a similar concept in the sense that someone said going on that is like getting in a cannon and getting shot up onto the roof of the house if you're trying to get up onto the roof of a house. And that's okay, but if you fall off the house, you fall all the way back down to the ground, as opposed to taking the ladder. And even if you do slip back a couple of steps, you still know where you are because you've been there before.
I like that.
And you don't fall all the way back down to the ground. So that was another analogy I just thought of as you're speaking because, there is businesses sometimes who want the cannon and it doesn't really exist. If it does, you need to get up there and you need to manage to stay up there as well.
You've got to think about it. Yeah, and there could be the lucky few, but I do like that. I do like that. And I think that also reminds me, and same with this topic here, is that I once read that there's three industries that will never go out of style, and they came in like the 50s or early 40s it was, and it was get rich quick, lose weight quick, find love quick.
Ooh.
And here they were saying it's the 3 sort of fundamental things that humans desire, and they're the 3 fundamental things that are non-transactional. You can't. There is no short. I mean, there are shortcuts to it, like you were saying. That's reminding me of the cannon theory that yes, you can shoot to the top, but it's not really stable nor sustainable. You can starve yourself really. I heard an analogy said I can lose 10 kilos tomorrow. I just cut my leg off. And it's like it's not sustainable and it's going to cause more damage. But lo and behold, it's been an industry for decades and decades and decades and proven time and time again it doesn't work and it's not sustainable and no one's happy on it. But yet businesses are made and sold and make millions year after year after year after year because no one wants to accept the fact that sustainable, fulfilling, I guess is the right word, things that are worth doing take time.
Yes.
And they take effort.
Yes.
And that,
and they're hard.
And it takes a while. So it's like if you think my pet peeve in the entire universe is those YouTube videos, and I will pick on some people, but it's like YouTube videos for like these 19-year-old kids who are like, hey, here's this social media ad, or here's this digital marketing ad that I made and I scaled $400,000 a month. I think absolute bullshit. I've never seen one. I've even heard people come up with the evidence behind and pick them apart to stop leading people astray. Because people hear that, particularly nervous founders who are lost and frustrated, and they go, I need an answer. And this thing pops up around, do these 3 things and drop shipping or some crap. And it's like, do this thing and make all this cash. And it seduces people and they get into it. So anything worth doing takes time.
Yeah. It's the cannon that will forever get sold.
There's a be a cannon seller and you'll never go broke.
But that's what's sustainable is the cannon selling.
100%. Get rich quick schemes. The only one who gets rich is the person selling the get rich quick schemes. So be a cannon seller.
Yeah.
Don't be a cannon seller. I'm sorry. I take that back immediately.
Oh, that got fun towards the end. So, awesome. Thank you for talking us through that, Alex, in this episode. What are you going to talk about in episode 12?
Next one we've got... so we're going to go through that Jordan has... they've cracked a bit of leads. They've taken our advice. They're going to do it properly. They've got leads coming through now, but they're sort of falling off after the demo.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to jump into that in a bit.
Yeah. What's going wrong after the demo? Tune in episode 12. We'll talk to you then.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Please remember to subscribe, and if you are enjoying the episodes, please leave a review of the podcast on your platform of choice. It really helps to build the podcast credibility and to help others find this type of information.